Good evening, everyone. I am Orrin Woodward, and welcome back for another book review. This book is called Exposed, The Financial Matrix by a guy named Orrin Woodward. He's a New York Times best-selling author. He and his business partner, Chris Brady, have over 2 million books sold, if I remember the number correctly. And Orrin wrote this book to help people understand the financial system that we are living in. And he calls it the financial matrix. And what he does is he walks us through in this book how things are kind of structured right now in the world. What he opens with is, you may have felt the financial system is rigged. It is. You may have felt the financial system is taking advantage of you. It is. You may have wondered if there is something you can do about it. There is. Now, he has a couple chapters in here that he goes through and goes into debt and inflation, compound interest. He goes into money and fractional reserve banking, central banks and the gold standard, how the financial matrix is kind of set up. He also talks about money, media, management, monopolies. He also talks about the forced matrix versus free markets. And he talks about the importance of the Declaration of Independence and the American Constitution, because it really set up freedom over force. And there's a ton of information in this book. As I was getting my haircut today, I was talking to my barber, who I gave a copy of this book to read. And he said he went through the first chapter and he was like, whoa. And he went back and he reread it so that he could take notes and kind of look things up. Which, if you're reading a book, if you're taking the time to sit down with something that's weightier than a novel, I definitely recommend that you do that. You get in and you take notes. I write my margins. I underline, I star, highlighters, whatever it is that helps you call out information that you deem is important to you. Now, what he goes through is a little bit of detail about money in the American system. And really that's the big focus, because it's something that Orrin is very familiar with. He studied the U.S. dollar over time, looking back over history, looking at numbers. He's a systems engineer by training, and so he looks at a lot of things very systematically, and as some would say, even logically, okay? And so what Exposed does is it helps the user, so used to working in the computer world. What he does is he gets into why things are the way they are. And one of the things that he talks about is how a central bank is not good for any country, and how debt is the crutch that crushes households, companies, and economies. In this case, one of the things he teaches us about is how the U.S. dollar is what's called a fiat currency, meaning that it's money by mandate, that it's by law that you have to use it for all legal debts, things like that. I guess to give a little background to why he calls it the financial matrix is that in world history, Orrin sees three different matrices. The first one is slavery, physical control over physical people, and that is a system that we know is not right, that it is evil, that it is despicable to practice, and should be done away with entirely across the world. Thankfully, throughout the Western world, that came about. There was a stint, of course, in America where it was permitted again, but thankfully the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were structured in a way that those truths could eventually work on our better natures, and help change those things. So slavery is that control over the individual person. Next, we have feudalism, or as Orrin calls it, he calls it oh my goodness, the land matrix, or control of the land. In the feudal system, the people worked the land for the lord and lady, gave I believe it was 50% of their harvest, their flock, to the lord of the land, and so they were able to then still control the production of the people. The last is finance, is money. And what Orrin talks about is we are blind to it. Like in the movie The Matrix, we are born into a financial system that is broken. When I was born, it was already broken. And what Orrin helps us to understand is that from 1913 to 1971, steps were taken to weaken and to take value out of the U.S. dollar. And because the U.S. dollar was the world reserve currency after World War II, it then took that money out of all of, or that value out of all of the other currencies and made them all fiat to some degree. So, but he walks through and he teaches about interest, about debt, about how compounding interest works, and he talks about what is being practiced today, which is called fractional reserve banking, and this is where a bank is allowed to loan out, one, money it doesn't have, and two, multiples of a deposit. So I think the example that he uses in the book is that if you deposit $100,000 in your bank account, the bank can then make either several $100,000 loans or a $1 million loan. And he walks through how that system works and how it is detrimental to you and I, who go out and put in labor, sweat, equity, if you will, to bring home our pay, and then we pay back that nothing, essentially. There is there was a court case, I want to say in the 60s, where the bank manager was asked, so if I opened up a bank today, how could I lend any money out to people coming to me for a loan? And the bank manager admitted that they make it up out of thin air, which is pretty startling when you start to understand how the Financial Reserve works, how the U.S. Treasury works, how they work in conjunction with the U.S. Treasury, and how that cycle is not good for us. It is known that the U.S. dollar has declined over time. From 1913, the institution of the Federal Reserve, which is a private corporation, not a federal organization. And if the research that Orrin and other people have done is correct, there are also no reserves, no hard assets, gold or silver, to back the printing of all of this money, which is another thing that makes it a fiat currency. There's no, the true value of it is zero because there's nothing behind it to back it up. Now, you might be thinking, well, why does it have to have gold and silver behind it? Gold and silver has been money for like 2,500. It's been standardized money for like 2,500 years. It's been used in barter and trade for like 5,000 years as a store of value, which is essentially the earliest forms of money. He goes into printing. He goes into the how things work, how like into detail. It's too much for me to even try to cover in the limited time that we have here. He provides diagrams and charts to really help the reader visualize and see what he's talking about and understand the concepts that he's trying to teach and provide us the information on. He talks about, so one of the things that the financial matrix does is it follows the age-old adage that absolute power corrupts absolutely. And when you look at how things are, that makes sense. Let me give you a prime example. I lost my house my wife and I lost our house in 2015. We made some bad decisions. We didn't understand, honestly, we did not understand how things worked. We thought there were some protections in place that were not, and so we paid that price. Well, what I learned going through that process is because it was a federally backed loan, the holder of the mortgage would, because we defaulted, would be paid the full value of the loan, and then they could turn around and sell the house. They got paid twice for a house. There's a lot of other things that go on in the financial system that punishes you and I. Part of it is because we don't get financial education in our schools. And I don't mean accounting. I don't mean business math. I mean real education about the importance of hard money, about the importance of not printing, the importance of not trying to control the economy and letting the economy run on its own. We can see how he points out how the absolute power of the financial matrix has pulled in all types of media, which, if I remember correctly, in the U.S., most TV, radio, news, newspapers are all conglomerated under like 6 or 7 companies. We can look at the education system. It's designed and structured in a certain way. where we aren't taught things. You have religions that are supporting the financial matrix. You have charitable foundations. You have corporations that continue to pull others underneath them. So one of the quotes in this book on page 111 is Bernays, who he's the father of public relations and the nephew of Sigmund Freud, said that that you control the masses through subconscious manipulations, okay? And that's through the information you give, the information you keep, that you don't share, the spin that is put on the information that's put out there. And it really goes to show, or I should say, he really tries to show in this book, like, how that works, how it all works, how it ties together. And what that means for us. The free market, the absolute free market, which has not been practiced in the United States in a long time. There are a few countries where there is a bit of a free market, and some things are completely open to the free market controls. We can look at things like, I'm going back to the chart here, cell phones, and some software packages, TVs, some household furnishings. Some things have gone down in price because there's real competition. College textbooks, college tuition has gone up. He says over 160%, it looks like. So there are some things that have increased exponentially, massively. You know, one of the things I've learned from following Orrin and studying things that he teaches about finances is that in the 70s, the average person could go to work and pay for college. And incomes were a lot lower back in the 70s than they are today. And a person could go get a college degree if they wanted to. A person could buy a house and pay it off in fewer years than it takes now. Most people saved up to buy their car. Most people, saved up to put the deposit down on their house. And a lot of times today, that's not the case. There are, zero down mortgages. And there are some tools that are available to the public, the people, that are designed to hurt us more than they really help us. I think we can see from the housing crash that the stuff that was going on really, some of that stuff really is reflected in our culture. And it's something that you should learn about on your own. The Big Short is a great book that goes into that and tells some of that story. So what he says in chapter 5 is that nearly every great advance in history has occurred when human beings broke free from the ruling matrices of control. In these brief moments, we catch a glimpse of how sweet freedom is when it blossoms into life, liberty, and the security of private property ownership for individuals is infinitely valuable and worthy of our pursuit. So, essentially, really, as the feudal system broke up, we had people moving into cities, starting to specialize in different jobs. And so what that caused is it caused a huge amount of growth in the number of people, the economy, all these different things. So one of the things that Orrin really teaches that I absolutely love in this book is the golden rule of philosophy. And this is, he calls the ethical path, or institutionalized justice of production from people whose life, liberty, and property are protected. When the United States was set up, there were some forces trying to force us into a financial matrix. We did have the first and second bank of the United States. But what the golden rule philosophy is that private property is protected and life and liberty are also secure under that. Because people are able to work and save and actually produce money. It's not stripped from them by heavy taxes, by fees, by regulation, all these different things that are heaped upon the American people. All right. So really what you need to understand is that if you have seen things in the world of finance, if you have seen things in housing, which is part of finance, if you see things in the media that don't seem right, get a hold of me and get you a copy of the book. It is available exclusively right now through our partnership with Life, who Orrin is the he's one of the founders. He's the chairman of that's the word. He's the chairman of the board. I was trying to think what he is. Of that company. And this is written in part for us, partners, people that partner with the company, but also for other people to read and learn and understand that the golden rule philosophy, the financial matrix, that these things are real. And as I've studied finance from Orrin, as I've studied the things that Orrin and Chris teach in their 47 Principles Financial Fitness book, I see much more clearly than I did before. And when I see things that used to not make sense, and I see them again, I can see how that ties in to the financial matrix. So there's no way I can really go through this book in depth. I will tell you want a copy of this book, because it will teach you things and help you understand more about the financial system that we live in and why it's not good for creativity. It's not good for freedom. It's not good for liberty. You know, it used to be that when you bought property, that you owned it. And now we pay property taxes on things into perpetuity. Whole other story. Another thing that Orrin teaches about in this book. My friends, thank you for joining me tonight, or whatever it is that you're watching this video. If you enjoyed it, if you got value from this video, please like and share it. I am Orrin Woodward, and I'm with Turning Leaf Solutions, and we help people level up their leadership. The website is turningleafs, LEAFS.com, and from there you can connect with me across other forms of social media, catching this on Facebook, or if you're catching this on YouTube. So my friends, go out, get a book, learn something, empower yourself, invest in you. And if you need a book recommendation, reach out to me and let's have a conversation. Otherwise, at turningleafs.com, there is a book list of over 200 books that I recommend that you pick up and read. So huge selection there, from some are fictional philosophy, some are historical, some are biographies, some are about finance. So my friends, thank you very much again for spending time with me. Take care, and I will see you next time.